There's a kind of shift in the sky that happens so rarely most people will live through it only a handful of times in their entire life. And June 30th is exactly that kind of shift. On this day, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, luck, abundance, and divine fortune, crosses out of Cancer and enters Leo for the first time since the summer of 2015. I want you to actually sit with that number for a second. 11 years, the last time this exact energetic doorway opened, the world looked completely different, and so did you. Whatever was happening in your life in 2015, whatever version of yourself existed back then, that is how long it has been since Jupiter last touched this particular territory of the zodiac. And I do not think this transit is being talked about with anywhere near the seriousness it deserves. Most people will scroll past a headline about Jupiter changing signs the same way they scroll past 100 other astrology posts, without understanding that this is genuinely one of the most significant financial and personal transits of the entire decade. Jupiter does not move quickly. It takes nearly 12 full years to travel through all 12 signs of the zodiac, spending roughly a year in each one, which means wherever Jupiter lands, it does not create a brief flicker of luck. It opens a sustained channel, an entire year-long portal through which abundance, opportunity, and unexpected fortune can flow into a very specific area of your life. So let's talk about what makes Leo, specifically, such a remarkable destination for the planet of expansion. Leo is ruled by the sun itself, the Bright and most central force in our entire solar system. It is the sign of radiance, creative power, leadership, courage, and the kind of confident self-expression that draws attention and opportunity simply by existing in the room. Leo does not ask permission to shine. It simply shines, and the world responds to that brightness. When Jupiter, the planet that expands and magnifies whatever it touches, enters a sign already associated with magnetism, visibility, and bold self-expression, the result is not subtle. This is widely considered one of the most fortunate possible placements for Jupiter to occupy, because it takes a planet whose entire purpose is amplification and places it inside a sign whose entire purpose is being seen. Confidence becomes contagious. Self-expression becomes a literal magnet for opportunity. And money, financial abundance, and unexpected windfalls have historically followed this transit with remarkable consistency throughout astrological history. I want to be specific about why I am calling this a wealth portal, rather than simply a transit about confidence or creativity, because the financial dimension of this shift deserves real attention. Jupiter governs not just luck in the abstract sense, but specifically expansion in the areas of life it touches through the houses of your individual birth chart. And because Leo rules matters of personal power, creative output, and bold individual action, the wealth generated during this transit tends to come through very specific channels: personal branding, creative entrepreneurship, leadership roles where your individual name and reputation become the source of opportunity rather than a faceless institution. Bold moves made in your own name, rather than passive waiting for opportunity to be handed to you by someone else. This is fundamentally different from how wealth flowed during Jupiter's previous transit through Cancer, which favored emotional security, family resources, real estate, and quieter forms of accumulation built through nurturing and protection. Jupiter in Leo flips that entirely. This is the year where staying invisible, staying quiet, staying safely behind the scenes actually works against you. The financial doorway that opens now specifically rewards visibility. It rewards putting yourself forward. It rewards the version of you willing to be seen, willing to take credit for your talent publicly, willing to stop shrinking in order to make other people comfortable. I think this is precisely why so many people are going to miss this opportunity entirely, despite it being one of the most generous transits of the decade. Because claiming visibility, claiming credit, claiming the spotlight feels deeply uncomfortable for people who have spent years being taught that humility means staying small. Jupiter in Leo is not interested in your humility. It is interested in your authentic radiance, and it is offering an entire year-long window where that radiance, if you are willing to express it, can translate directly into financial and professional abundance that would normally take far longer to manifest. There are 3 signs standing at the absolute center of this wealth portal: Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. If your sun, moon, or rising falls into any of these fire signs, what is about to happen over the next 13 months is not a minor background influence. It is one of the most significant financial windows of your entire life. Leo, this is happening directly in your sign, and I cannot overstate how rare and significant this is for you. Jupiter only returns to your own sign once every 12 years, which means this is officially the beginning of a brand new 12-year cycle of personal expansion, specifically centered on you, your identity, your creative gifts, and your right to take up space in the world without apology. For the entirety of this transit, Jupiter sits in your first house, the house of self, physical presence, and personal identity, which means the expansion is not happening to your external circumstances first. It is happening to you directly, to your confidence, your visibility, your willingness to be fully seen. I believe many Leo placements are about to experience something that feels almost disorienting in its generosity, after what may have felt like years of more restrictive energy. Opportunities are likely to arrive that specifically reward you for being unapologetically yourself, rather than a careful, edited version calibrated for other people's comfort. This is the year to launch the creative project you have been sitting on. This is the year to ask for the raise, the promotion, the recognition you have quietly believed you deserved, but were too cautious to claim out loud. Jupiter in your own sign amplifies whatever you put forward, which means the version of yourself you present to the world during this transit matters enormously. Present boldly, and the universe tends to respond with matching generosity. The financial dimension for Leo specifically tends to arrive through personal brand, individual recognition, and ventures where your name and your face are directly attached to the value being created. This is not the year for staying anonymous within a larger organization, hoping someone notices your contribution eventually. This is the year to step forward and claim credit, visibly and directly, for what you create. Aries, Jupiter in Leo is moving through your 5th house, the house of creativity, joy, romance, and self-expression. And for a fire sign like you, this placement is extraordinarily favorable. The 5th house is where we play, where we create purely for the pleasure of creating, where we take risks specifically because the risk itself feels exhilarating rather than threatening. Jupiter expanding this house means an entire year where creative risks, romantic boldness, and joyful self-expression are specifically rewarded rather than punished. I think many Aries placements are going to find that something they create purely from passion, without initially calculating its financial potential, ends up becoming a genuine source of income or opportunity during this transit. This is the energy of monetizing what genuinely lights you up, rather than forcing yourself into financial strategies that feel disconnected from your actual joy. If you have a creative project, a hobby, a passion you have kept separate from your income out of practicality, this transit is specifically asking you to consider whether that separation needs to continue. Jupiter in your house of creative, joy is opening a door between what delights you and what can sustain you financially. And walking through that door requires a willingness to take your own creative instincts seriously rather than dismissing them as merely recreational. Sagittarius, Jupiter is actually your ruling planet, which means wherever Jupiter travels, you feel its effects with particular intensity. Similar to how Capricorn feels Saturn's movements more deeply than other signs, Jupiter in Leo is activating your 9th house, your own natural house of belief, higher learning, long-distance travel, and expansive philosophical understanding, creating a kind of homecoming energy where your ruling planet sits in territory that already resonates deeply with your nature. For Sagittarius specifically, the wealth and opportunity arriving during this transit often comes through unconventional channels. International connections, educational ventures, publishing, teaching, or any platform where your worldview and your particular brand of optimistic wisdom can reach a wider audience. I believe many Sagittarius placements are going to receive opportunities this year that involve genuine expansion of horizon, sometimes literally through travel or relocation, sometimes through reaching an audience or market far larger than what felt accessible before. The financial gain here tends to come from being willing to think bigger than feels immediately comfortable, trusting that the expanded vision Jupiter is offering is not unrealistic optimism, but an accurate preview of what is actually available to you now. For the remaining signs, this transit still touches your chart, opening doors through different houses and different flavors of expansion. Taurus, your third house of communication and local connection is activated, suggesting financial opportunity through writing, speaking, or networking within your immediate community. Gemini, your second house of personal income and values, is directly touched, which traditionally represents one of the most financially favorable house placements Jupiter can occupy, suggesting direct increases to income and a deepening sense of self-worth tied to your financial reality. Cancer, your first house lights up as Jupiter exits your sign, but leaves a generous parting gift, expanding your sense of personal identity and confidence as you move into this next chapter. Virgo, your 12th house of the subconscious and spiritual life deepens, suggesting this is a year of internal expansion that eventually translates into external opportunity once the insights gained here are applied. Libra, your 11th house of community, friendship, and long-term goals is activated, suggesting that your network and the people you surround yourself with become a genuine source of opportunity and financial growth this year. Scorpio, your 10th house of career and public reputation expands, suggesting visible professional advancement and recognition that has been building toward this moment for some time. Capricorn, your 9th house of higher learning and broader perspective opens, suggesting opportunities through education, publishing, or expanding your expertise into new markets. Aquarius, your 8th house of shared resources and deep transformation is activated, suggesting financial growth through partnership, investment, or inherited resources. Pisces, your 7th house of partnership expands, suggesting that significant relationships, business or romantic, become a genuine source of mutual growth and opportunity this year. Now I want to talk about how to actually work with this energy, because Jupiter, more than almost any other planet, rewards conscious participation rather than passive waiting. Jupiter expands what you already put forward. It does not typically hand opportunity to people who remain completely still. Hopping fortune simply arrives unprompted. The expansion happens in proportion to what you are willing to offer up for expansion in the first place. The first thing to understand is that Jupiter in Leo specifically rewards visibility, which means the most important practical step during this transit is to put yourself, your work, your talent, and your voice in front of more people than you currently are. If you have been hesitant to share your work publicly, to apply for the more ambitious opportunity, to ask directly for what you believe you deserve, this is the year that hesitation becomes the primary obstacle standing between you and what Jupiter is offering. The second thing is to be mindful of Jupiter's well-known shadow side, which is excess and overreach. Jupiter amplifies, and amplification is not selective about amplifying only the helpful patterns. If you have tendencies toward overspending, overcommitting, or overestimating your own capacity. Those tendencies can also expand during this transit. The wealth available now is genuine, but sustaining it requires pairing Jupiter's expansive energy with basic financial discipline. Rather than assuming abundance alone will solve structural financial habits that need attention regardless of planetary support. The third thing is to pay attention to the retrograde period that occurs later in this transit, when Jupiter turns backward for several months before resuming forward motion. During retrograde phases, the expansive energy turns inward, asking you to refine and reassess rather than continue launching new initiatives. Use the early months of direct motion to plant bold seeds and treat the retrograde window as a period for adjusting and strengthening what you have already started, rather than abandoning momentum simply because the energy has temporarily turned reflective. The fourth thing is to genuinely examine where you have been dimming your own light in order to make other people comfortable. This is perhaps the deepest invitation of Jupiter in Leo. Many of us learned somewhere along the way that taking up space, claiming credit, or being visibly confident about our talents was somehow arrogant or excessive. Jupiter in Leo is asking you to separate genuine humility from learned smallness. There is nothing humble about hiding a gift that could genuinely help or inspire other people. This year is asking you to let your light be seen, not as an act of ego, but as an act of generosity toward a world that benefits from your full expression. What I find most remarkable about this particular transit is the sheer rarity of its timing. 11 years between visits to this exact sign means that whatever doors open now will not reopen in quite the same way again until the late 2030s. This is not a small window of opportunity to be approached casually. This is a genuinely rare alignment between the planet of luck and the sign of radiant self-expression. And the people who recognize its significance now, who are willing to step forward boldly rather than waiting cautiously on the sidelines, tend to be the ones who look back on this year as a genuine turning point in their financial and creative life. If this resonated with you, if something in here gave you the permission you have been quietly waiting for to finally step into more visibility, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. It helps this message reach more people exactly when this rare window is opening for them too. Whatever abundance is trying to find you during this transit, I hope you are brave enough to let it land. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.